guys, we've talked about distance and midpoint. And so now we're going to take this a little bit further with segment bisectors. So anytime you hear the word bisector, that is going to mean that it cuts something exactly in half. So if you have a segment bisector, it's going to cut the segment into equal parts, okay? So exactly in half. So that's what bisector is. So that's our first key point, is to be able to determine that. So make sure that you understand if you ever see that word bisecting, you have to automatically know that it cuts it in half, not just intersects. So not just touches it or crosses through. It cuts it exactly in half. And then you're going to also determine either a missing value or a segment length or whatever from some of these problems based on the fact that you know it's a segment bisector. Okay, so let's look here on our first example. It says we have LMN, and so do you see those little dashes on those lines? That means that those lines are completely equal. Okay, they're equal in length. It says if the length of segment LN, so the whole thing, is 28 inches, then what is the segment of LM? So we are going to go ahead and, so since it cuts it into equal parts, then we know the whole thing is 28. That means that each piece, since it's equal parts, I could take the whole length, 28, divide it by 2, and I am going to get 14. So the length of LM is 14. So based on that segment addition theorem, I could take 14 plus 14, because this side has to be the same length, and then that's equal to 28. It says, what if the length of the segment of LN this time is not 28, okay? It is 2x plus 8. So we don't know what the x is. So it says, what is the length of MN? Well, we don't know exactly what x is. So now we're not saying that it's 2x plus 8 and 28, okay? We're just saying it's 2x plus 8. That means that what am I going to do? I'm going to follow the exact same method that I just did for the whole length being 28, and this is going to be half of whatever LN is. Okay, so what I can do, it says MN, so it's going to be the same thing. And so what I can do is I can take 2x plus 8 and divide it by 2. That means I'm going to divide that 2x by 2 and the 8 by 2. So both pieces of that get divided by 2. And so you end up with x, 1x, so just x, plus 8 divided by 2 makes 4. So each piece of this would be x plus 4 in length. Okay, now I do that so that way you can kind of manipulate these in the way that you want to do them and the way you want to solve them. Let's look at this next example. So notice that we have the little tick marks. That means that D is a segment bisector, okay? It says, what is the value of X? What do I know about each piece? I know that CD, that segment, is going to be equal to DE. And since I know C, and so what's keeping me from, what equation now can I put in there is that I have 5x plus 7 is equal to 3x plus 21. So now I can solve that equation. So I can subtract 3x. I didn't leave myself very much room, did I? I'm going to come over here. And so I have 2x plus 7 equals 21. I'll subtract 7 from each side. So 2x equals 14. Lastly, divide by 2, and x is equal to 7. So for this first part, x is equal to 7. So now, using that information, what is the length of segment CD? What I can do is I can go back and plug it in. So CD is 5x plus 7. Well, what was keeping me from just being able to identify what the length of CD was is that value of x. Now I know x, so I can replace it. So 5 times 7 plus 7. So 35 plus 7 is going to give me 42. And then what is the length of CE? This whole length. Use a different color. All right, so that whole length is going to be each piece. So I knew that CD plus DE is going to be equal to CE. That's that segment addition postulate. Well, I know that CD is 42, and I know that DE is 42 because of those little tick marks. I know it's a segment bisector, so it's going to cut it into equal parts. So if I have that, so then I can just add those two pieces together. These are both 42. You can go back and plug in 7 into this equation or this expression right here. You're still going to get 42. So that 42 plus 42, that gives me 84. So the length of CE is 84. Okay, so now we have one more. We have 8x minus 1 is the length of CD, and then the length of the segment CE is 86, and now we're trying to find the value of x. So if I have CE, this whole thing is 86. Now, what I want you to think back to that first problem when we found just that part of it. Okay, remember what I did? I took that whole piece and I divided it by 2 to find each individual piece. So I can do that same thing. So I'm going to do 86 divided by 2, and I'm going to get 43. So this is 43. Okay, so now what I can do is I can now say 8x minus 1 is equal to 43. And then I'll add 1 to both sides. And so 8x is equal to 44 divided by 8, and x is equal to 5.5. That's what we're going to. So in this case, when we haven't worked with it a lot, but a little bit, you can have a decimal for an answer for x. So don't be afraid of that. That can happen, especially sometimes when we have some of these uglier problems, uglier numbers. But go ahead and write that decimal. And then if we ever need you to round it to a certain decimal point, because it's going to go on forever, then we'll tell you. So just keep that in mind. So couple of things real quick. Remember, a segment bisector cuts a segment exactly in half. So if in the problem it tells you that a certain segment cuts the other segment in half or whatever, then you'll know that those two are equal parts, okay? Not just intersecting. Your challenge problem here, you're trying to find the length of KL, and based on all of that information there. Okay, so I think that's it for lesson 2.3. So from here, you can go and practice with the Booklet or the quizzes if you're not quite ready for your skill check. Remember, you can always come back to those just to practice to keep your skills fresh and continue to be able to practice those in preparation for anytime you might see this on an exam or in future dates. So that's it for segment bisectors. And so now you can head on to your practice or to your skill check.